We'll start again. We'll come out the stream and come back in. Evening, Dale.
Hello.
Take two. Tell me, never work with children and animals when you're doing a live thing. Bloody hell. How are you, mate?
I'm absolutely fine and dandy, and yourself?
I'm not bad. I'm always glad when Friday comes around. Do you not think? I mean, it is a fact. The older you get, the quicker time passes, isn't it? Why is that? You don't know, do you?
No idea, but I've noticed it myself. So.
Anyway, listen, thanks very much to the 5 people who have joined me so far. Evening, Craig. I was actually I invited Dale on probably about 7.5 minutes ago, and I was my main concern was if I invited Dale on, there would be nobody watching. Are you talking to me or not? What are you doing? Pay attention. What are you doing?
I'm trying to set myself up in case your questions come out.
You're worse my door. I'm talking away. You're not even paying attention.
That is my fault. I do apologise for everything. I'm trying to set myself up.
Listen, we'll just ignore Dale. How is it? Start again. How is everybody? Welcome to Friday. I've got Mr. Flanagan. We've got Steve, 8-Bit Steve. I must admit, Steve, I do prefer that name because it's less of a mouthful than your previous moniker. Is that what you call it? A moniker? I think it is. Or is a moniker one of these things you put in your eyes? I don't know. Evening, Colin. And Mark, whatever, yeah, thanks very much. There's also a few other people not speaking, but just please come and say hello. So yeah, listen, thanks very much for joining Dale and myself tonight. As always, it's utterly unscripted. I've actually done a bit of prep, so I've got the last week's Friday Waffle questions up here on this screen. And yeah, if there's anything at all you want to talk about, just pop your question at the side. So, how's your week been, Dale? You all right?
Yeah. I've had a week off, so I've been trying to get some of my jobs that I've been putting off for ages done. I've played a few games and all that sort of stuff, but mostly it's been doing jobs around the house. How's work been for you this week?
It's been all right. You've kind of got a bit of a kind of on holiday haircut about you. You've got a lockdown hairdo going on there, haven't you?
That's booked for next week, actually, to get my haircut.
You got a bit ponytail going on there, actually. Even in the end, now, are you, mate?
And I've got to go to Specsavers as well, so that's all booked. I did it all today for next week, so.
Good. So you've not been up to very much at all. You've been out and about, or just?
No, seriously, I've just been doing. I've been trying to clear space in the attic because it's just a mess in this room. I've played a few games, but I've been reading some stuff up. I've played on the console a little bit. I played on Montezuma's Revenge last night, believe it or not.
It's actually a damn good game. It really is.
Yeah, so I've been doing little bits and bobs. It's not been focused on any one particular thing. I've been catching up with videos as well, and just everything really, a little bit of everything.
That's the good thing about my channel. When I let you see a game, I don't actually give you many spoilers. Other than level 1. Thought I'd get that in early before you bloody shove it in, you cheeky bastard. But anyway.
Wow, I wasn't going to say. But to be quite honest, that joke's getting a bit old. I think I ought to probably retire it because I think everybody knows now that level 2. It's just. You might have a chance if it's called stage 2, stage 3, but level 2, no. It's just.
Anyway, enough of that. Spiders. What the bloody? Apparently, I actually googled it. Apparently, this is the time of year where spiders come in to have sex. They actually come in to look for a partner. I have been getting. I mean, I'm just kind of a bit conscious of. I've had so many spiders coming into the house the last couple of weeks. Have you got a problem with spiders down your neck of the woods at all?
I just know that if you've got a window open, that they're going to take a damn big advantage of coming in now. Yeah, because I mean, I think they all know. Give it a month, and it's going to be pouring down with rain. Let's go somewhere where it's at least dry and possibly warm.
But I was up at Pets at Home buying my, well, it's not my lizard, it's my daughter's lizard. It's a monitor, actually. You'd probably be pissed off if I called him a lizard. He's a monitor, an Aki monitor. And I was buying, he eats these little, well, they look like cockroaches, but they're actually called crickets. And I heard the girl that works in the shop saying to a guy, he was looking, I don't know what the hell, he was looking at a spider, not a spider, a snake or something, and she said that she doesn't mind handling tarantulas, but see house spiders, she freaks out. I think not the same. I mean, I would never ever hurt a house spider, but I think the thing that kind of scares me with them is they run that bloody fast. If it kind of got out, it'd go and it'd just run up your leg or something, or up your arm. I mean, I don't have an issue with like daddy long legs or like smaller spiders, but see the huge big ones, the big massive legs. I've noticed tons of them.
Yeah, my friend had 2 pet spiders. I'm sure he mentioned this was back when in my 20s. So he used to go to the nightclubs, and I'm sure his chat line was, "Do you want to come up and see my spiders?" Right, which I'm pretty sure no girl would ever want to do. But he named one of the spiders Bella, and the other one Stomp On. Now, Bella was a red-kneed tarantula, I think. Stomp On was some fierce, horrible spider. Now, Bella was after Bela Lugosi, Dracula. It's got big fangs, right? Now, it did the Stomp On spider did actually bite me. I don't know if it can be seen on that camera, but that's the scar that I got when it bit me.
I can't see anything. I can just see you holding your bloody wrist up, your
okay.
your paler and white wrist. But apart from that,
there's a mark just there. Anyway, and eventually Bella died because it fell off of his hand and landed on his steel toe caps and broke its back open. The funny story was it was still alive, so he took it to a vet's, and they charged him £18 for putting it down.
A spider.
And I said I could have just stood on it. So more for you.
Yeah, we had. Sorry, I'm just a quick one. ZX Renew, good evening. Yeah, he's saying Alan's struggling to hear you. That's because I had the microphone turned up and Dale didn't tell me. Could you hear me all right?
I could hear you through my headset.
It was up there anyway. Thanks, ZX.
And the funny thing is that Colin says that spiders get more sex than him, and I can sort of like appreciate that actual.
What can I say? What can I say?
I've known a few black widows as well, so yeah.
What was I going to say? I've completely forgot what I was going to talk about. But tons of spiders. So at least you don't jump here. Yeah, I think. Can you imagine? I think we would think twice about. I mean, I honestly do not. Even wasps. I will never intentionally kill a wasp. I'd always try and catch it. The only insect that I killed recently was, do you know these ticks that you get?
Yeah.
Now, apparently you get them all the time when you're running. Now, I've been running, pretty much solidly for about 11 years, running through heather and God knows what, and I've never ever had one. But about 2 months ago, I noticed my dog was scratching its ear all the time. It kept thinking it, and I kept looking inside. Excuse me, and I noticed a kind of black, I don't know, like a blistery thing, and I didn't think much of it. And it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it was I don't know, a couple of days later, I was actually eating. It was, what do you call them? Skittles. By the way, these are apparently the Pride edition. Skittles are all white.
All right. I haven't seen those before.
Like that looks like a weird, doesn't it? Gay Pride Skittles. Anyway, I was eating some Skittles, and I dropped some on the floor, and I bent down, and being a Scot, I actually got them before they hit the ground, and I was picking them up, and then I picked up this red one, and I'm like, oh, that one's kind of squidgy, and I thought, what the hell is it? And I thought, it looked like a berry. And I held it up to my eyes, and then I put my glasses on, and I thought, oh, yuck. And it was a tick. And basically, what happens is they engorge themselves with so much blood that they end up falling off because they can't eat anymore. And it had these horrible bloody legs. So I put it into the sink, and I poured the bleach in it, and then I flushed it down the toilet. I thought, die. That's the only insect I've killed for probably, I don't know, 20, 30 years. But yeah, but no, I don't mind daddy long legs, but nah, the big spiders, they get put into a glass. And you've always got that precarious bit when you've got the glass against the wall and you're trying to move the glass down and the glass, oh shit, and then it's like the leg gets trapped and you're trying to kind of let it out before you're trying to open it to get the leg in. You don't want the leg to come off, and then it kind of gets trapped. You're like, oh fuck, and then if it goes like that and it falls off, and then before you know it, it runs under the bed. You don't know where it is.
Well, I've never liked wasps because I'm allergic to their stings. Bees don't bother me. But living in the country, the worst thing that we've got a problem with fly-wise is horse flies. I think the BBC did a thing in the morning, I know, a couple of weeks back about horse flies. They are terrible. If they sting you, it goes right up your arm or right up your leg. You know, the poison is they're really bad in the country, and because I'm in the country, there's usually a lot of those.
They'll just give me 2 seconds. Ava, what is it? Can I what? Right, come in and get it. Come in and get it. Sorry, just 2 seconds. Come and get it. Don't walk in front of the camera. Right, wait a minute. Wait, you want to know your phone number? Well, come in and get it. Oh, I'm not texting. Just come and take the phone. There it's there. Right, there it's there. You can figure out for that, surely. Right, there it's there. All right. Right, sorry, Dale, you were saying?
No, I was just saying about horseflies. And I never looked this up, but I think somebody told me that daddy longlegs are poisonous, but because their mandibles or their bite can never pierce skin, they can't do anything. You know, they actually are so weak that nothing can happen. But apparently they're like horseflies. But
well,
I never looked it up, is what I'm trying to say, to see whether that's actually true or not. But apparently they're very poisonous.
My girlfriend told me something, and one of my mates posted a picture of a daddy longlegs. What are they called? What's the official name? They're not called daddy longlegs, are they?
Do you want me to look that up? Because if it's some long Latin bastard thing, you can get stuffed. Because it's just not going to happen.
I can see your bloody cheekiness has gone up somewhat since you've started coming onto the channel, eh? Fucking hell.
That's Panther's
anyway, but apparently, you can maybe verify that. Apparently, daddy longlegs don't have mouths.
Oh, right.
They do not have mouths, and that's why they're not dangerous. Technically, they've got a lethal bite.
So that's different to what I was told, that they've got great big long, like, mandible teeth, but they're so weak they can't penetrate nothing, so they die quick and all that. But I mean, I didn't know if they didn't have mouths. No idea. It was just something that somebody told me years ago, and I never bothered to look it up. Never bothered to look it up one bit. So.
Well, there's one for us to check anyway. So, right, listen, I've got a few questions from last week. If there's any topics you want to hear us talking about, whatever, just give us a wee shout. I just want to have a quick. What was that I said? God, I misread what Colin said there. I thought he said that horse flies are very tasty. I'll take your word for that, Colin. Yeah. ZX is saying it's bollocks. I don't know whether that about the not having a mouth is bollocks. But I would actually. Why would anybody, or not anybody? Why would there be a god? Why would they make an insect that doesn't have a mouth? Unless, of course, it doesn't live long enough for it to actually matter. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing, you see, because I thought that they don't have a long life, but I remember that they hatch in the grass and then they grow to quite a big size if they only last a day. So they last longer than a day. Otherwise, how do they get to that size?
Well,
so
my mate
have a life cycle.
My mate reliably tells me they live between 10 to 15 days.
Yeah.
So there you go. Thing about bloody daddy longlegs, I mean, they're utterly pathetic, aren't they? I mean, they're the ugliest sin. They've got, I mean, what their body looks like I don't know what it looks like. It's like a match, and it's got this horrible kind of scales in it. And then it's just got these ridiculous legs. It can't even. I mean, they're like they can't even control where they go. They just flap out ridiculously. They go on the wall and then they suddenly plummet to the ground.
Yeah,
and then you grab it with a leg, and instantly the leg comes off.
Yeah, I was going to say after about a day, they've got half their legs missing anyway. So, but I think in this household we don't like moths. They just fly around the light. And then when you go to bed, they fly around the light where the TV is, so they're just a pain in the arse. So
aye, all you hear with moths is you hear it going dink, 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 hitting the mouth, hitting the bloody light. Yeah, I used to be. I probably still. I think I probably would still be. I've not seen any big moths for a while, but I used to be terrified to see the big, massive, fat ones because I think they. Similar to Daddy Longlegs, I don't think they have any real self-control. They just kind of amble about, and the good thing about wasps and bees and even a nail, the good thing about wasps and bees and like flies and that, at least they can see you. Whereas wasps and Daddy Longlegs, they're just like, fuck it, boom, right into you.
Yeah,
they don't avoid you. You know what I mean?
They really are just a pain, and even at night when you're driving along, you know, when we're now going between summer and autumn, and you'll be driving in the twilight now, and it gets darker, they'll just be flying straight towards your headlights. Every insect, you'll be clearing it off of your car for the next couple of weeks until it starts raining. You know.
Yep, Stephen's saying there. Some say spiders are the devil's creatures, but the Daddy Longlegs are the Mr. Bean version of a spider.
Yeah, well, I'd agree.
So somebody actually told me. I mean, it depends. If there's a big spider in my room, I'll quite happily leave it. But come on, lads, don't start running across the floor towards me because it's only going to end one way, and that's you in a glass getting chucked out. But then I'm sure my girlfriend said something ridiculous to me the other day. There, she said that she had a huge spider in her living room and she threw it out. And then she said, and then it came back in like the next day. And I says, how do you know it was the same one? She goes, well, it looked the same. There's no arguing with that, is there?
No.
It looked the same.
I got a bloody great big spider on my wall. Look, just up there.
Never mind. Is that women's football you're watching on the telly behind you?
Do you know what? Every time that you tell me, Craig, 2 minutes, you coming on, I'm flapping around on the TV to see whether there's something that I can just have on in the background. And I just go to the sports channel. There we go.
There's method in the Magners for having you on, Dale. One, it's nice to have you on, and two, it's an opportunity to watch the football as well. You just need to move your chair a wee bit. Anyway, listen. What was I going to say? I've been one of the guys. I don't know if he watches the channel. He's one of my mates. He goes to the computer club. I've been going on and on and on for a wee while about. I get one of the questions that I get asked is, have you ever had what do you call it, like a gaming regret? Have you bought something and sold it and then regretted it?
Yeah.
Before I launch into mines, have you ever had that? Have you ever bought anything sort of gaming related and then you've sold it? Or in fact, not even gaming related. Have you ever bought anything, sold it, and then went, oh shit, why did I sell that?
Yeah, I actually put something in Discord because there was a thing I was reading through Viz, an old Viz collection, and one of the Viz top tips was, have you ever bought something that you don't want? Well, give it me, I'll have it. That was one of the top tips, right? But one of the first videos I actually saw of yours was your Pandora review. Do you remember your Pandora?
Oh. Yep, it's up there, and I keep thinking about selling it. You just don't get them.
Remember, I told you in probably one of the earliest times that I came on. In fact, it might have been the time when you were doing your 12-hour stream. I said that one of the biggest regrets I had was selling that. Whatever you do, don't sell it, because even now I'd like to have that back. That was one of the things I sold because I needed money to buy a car, and even now I miss it an awful lot. And it was one of the early ones. The machine now must be 8 years old, 9 years old, because it was a 2012.
Hang on, I'll go and grab it, Dale. Just when you're talking about it. Hang on.
So it was a 2012 console, but it had a Linux system on it, and I used to use it an awful lot. But it had a few problems on the early editions.
Right. Yeah. This is. I think. There it's here. For anyone that's never seen it, I mean, you can talk exactly what it was.
Yeah. So I was actually just explaining just now. I said it's a very, very lovely little console in the same way that a DS is, only it has a keyboard and it's a Linux operating system, and it's touchscreen. So there are two analog sticks, a D-pad, and some buttons with a keypad. It's touchscreen, so it comes with a stylus. And
stylus. We are talking too quick. Stylus. Yep.
Yeah. And it was stereo.
Yep. Yeah, it's got two. Where's the speakers about? Oh, that's them there. Oh, they're there.
And it had two SD card readers, I believe, in it, so you could put two SD cards in. There you go, right at the front. So they acted like hard drives, and it was infrared as well.
Now, one of the things about this, and I'm going to look stupid because it's not going to work, but the batteries in these things are bloody huge. In fact, let me just take the battery out. There we go. Here's the battery.
And damn expensive as well.
I've got two of them. I've got a spare one as well.
Yeah.
I've actually got the official Pandora carry case for it as well.
Yes, I got a hard shell case. It was weird because it came from Germany, my particular one, because I think I got it just in the second. They sent them out in batches, and the first batches were broke. They weren't very well. There was something wrong with the controllers. If I remember rightly, it was the D-pad. It was the analog controllers. They were broken or susceptible to breaking. And I remember it came in a white box, a vanilla white box. The battery was a vanilla white box. Everything was in a white box. And I ordered the HDMI cable that was supposed to be released at the same time, and that never arrived. So even after me having it for a couple of years, I never even had it hooked up to a HDMI source or anything like that. So
I mean, I've not charged this up for, I don't know, a year. Now it's currently sitting at 48%. Now I mean, you need, what was the spec of this deal? This was something, I mean, it's something like, it was, I don't know, like a Pentium 60 or something. It's not a powerful.
It's a risk-based, it is a risk-based processor. It was powerful at the time, and it had a lot of RAM, if I remember rightly, which also was a plus point for me ordering it. But I ordered it because I wanted something that would be really easy to play Amiga stuff on, and it having two drives and being touch screen and so forth, and a keyboard, I thought this is perfect. And I literally had it for about 2 years, but then I had to sell it. I was really down on my luck. Was being made redundant, if I remember rightly, and I needed a car to get to interviews. So it was one of the things that went, and I sold it for about £500-600.
Really? Wow.
Which is probably only about 150 over what I actually bought it for, because it was a damn expensive thing. It was £500 to buy, I think, when it was brand new. So it wasn't a cheap thing.
No, I mean, I bought this. I'm trying to look for the name. I bought this. Apparently, you've just missed a goal.
I'm too concentrated on the question to give everybody the right answer.
Right,
I'm laughing a lot as well, because somebody turned around and said, "I hope that spider did get stomped on," and then they charged £18 for it.
I'm going to attempt to load up Outrun. So this thing, when did this come out? This was
2012, I think.
2012, was it?
Yeah.
Are you sure it was as recent as that?
Well, if you think about it, that's 9 years ago, Al.
I thought. I would beg to differ. I thought it was. Maybe I'm thinking of the original Game Park.
Yes,
the Game Park, and then the Game Park Color or Light.
We had this discussion before, because there was a Game Park 32, a GP2, and then there was the Pandora. And it literally, when you were saying, "Oh, I got this," I think in 2010, I was going, Well, that's bloody late because I got mine in 2012. I'm pretty sure. So
Now
look at that.
there it's running out on. Look at that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
And it doesn't sound tinny at all from those speakers. It really is quite
Now,
nice.
you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong. This was designed. It wasn't a Kickstarter thing, but it was a group of hobbyists or technical guys who thought, let's put together the ultimate gaming handheld, because you need to kind of remember when this came out. You know, the DS. I don't think the clamshell DS was a thing, was it? I don't think it was.
I think the old style DS had just come out, the very, very early model.
The big silver one.
The silver one.
Yeah.
But I do remember that it was several people from Game Park, or at least the distributor of Game Park in this country, that wanted to come out with a piece of equipment, the ultimate handheld, beyond what a GP2 could do. And that's how that started. I remember reading I was getting excited about it coming out, and I was following it quite closely.
Yeah,
but I still missed the initial batch that came out.
One of the things that I remember reading about it was, apparently, I mean, it might be a lot of bollocks, but I don't see why it should be. Apparently, what it's got a fantastic sound hardware in it. They're saying it is really the sound hardware that's in it, not so much the speakers, but the actual whatever it is. They're saying that it was the guy that actually designed that was a sound technician, and they said that there's some sound purists will buy it just because of the actual hardware that's in it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I mean, I would probably say, it's not going to play Tekken, it's not going to play Ridge Racer, it's not going to play a PSP game, but see, for any of the earlier, your SNES or Mega Drive, I mean, it's even got, if I'm saying bloody Ridge Racer, wait a wee minute, PCX, it's got a PlayStation emulator in it, loads CD, Dodon Patchy. I'll just do that. Yeah, I would say pound for pound, it's probably the ultimate emulation thing, because that's what it was basically designed as an emulation thing. But saying that, it is an actual full-on computer, isn't it? I mean, it's got Linux built in. You can boot into that. Right, let's try boot, load CD. Oh, wait a minute. Right, is it going to work? It's thinking about it. There we go. Is it doing it? But yeah, I have. Look, I've just bloody loaded Dodon Patchy. Not to worry.
There we are. I've just brought up some details on it. It's the graphics card was a Power VR graphic card. So we're talking when Voodoo came out.
So there's Dodon Patchy. You'll hopefully see it. I think it's got a demo. But for such an old bit of hardware, it's just bloody awesome. And yeah, some days I think, I never use it. And the thing is, I'll be honest, I don't use it. I don't ever use it. But I think it would be one of these things, if I sold it, I would probably instantly regret it. It's a weird thing.
That's the one thing I said, don't ever sell it, because I regret mine every time.
I mean, I bet you if you went into eBay now, you wouldn't even find any.
You won't find one. I on occasion when I'm a little bit flush, I go, I could just do with having that back. I do type in Pandora. Most of the time you'll get jewelry come up. It pisses you off, right? And when you do come across one, it's either well out of my reach or it's just not there. You will not see it.
Just out of curiosity, how much are they going for now?
I'll have a little look. But it's a 600 megahertz processor and it's got a Power VR graphic card in it, just so you know. Let's have a look. eBay. So you carry on talking while I look on eBay.
Just looking at one of the comments. Aljack79, good evening, Squire. I bought Vib Ribbon for the PS1 for about a tenner. Had it for a few weeks and part exchanged it. It's worth a damn fortune now. Just talking about that, have you? Well, in fact, I know you have, because you sent me a link to the video when we did a live waffle down at Panthers about 6 weeks ago. news had just broke about this £1.5 million Mario. Now, it's kind of come to light that all is not what it seems. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dale, because you've probably got a better understanding than me. There's an organisation that has been pulled together, and it was pulled together fairly recently, that basically rates video games as to how good quality, how new they look. And said game was, I think it was maybe a 9.8 or something. But they're in basically cahoots, or are they owned by the auction house? Now, the auction house get a big chunk of the money. And from what I gather, basically the buyer and seller were running the same thing. So did no money actually exchange hands? Is that kind of what happened?
That's the big problem, because what you have to understand with this is that behind the scenes, the only thing that needs to be disclosed with anything is the directors of a company, right? You can't hide that. So if you've got a CEO and a director and so forth, those are on the manifest and they have to be publicly given. But you can have a consortium of people that can be at lower ends of each sort of company that you've got. So you can have a hedge people from several different companies and also be part of the auction house. In this particular instance, it's quite a large auction house that was involved with this. So you've got a rating company, you've got the consortium that bought the game, and you've got the auction house. So 3 players, and you will find that there'll be 1 or 2 that are intermingled amongst all 3. So there'll be 2 out of 3 in each of the groups, if that makes sense. So because something is sold, it doesn't necessarily mean it was sold in money. It could have been with stock or games of equal value, and it could be the consortium themselves that bought it. That's where it becomes a problem, because there's an old scam in the comic industry where if you had a comic store, you could get a comic out that was made in 1962, sell it, and put it up for auction for £4,000, say, buy it yourself, you put it back in your collection, and 2 years later, you put it up, the same comic up for sale for £6,000. And what you're doing is that you're raising the stakes each time and raising interest. And each time it officially sells, then it goes on as a market sale of that value. So everybody's collections go up and people sell their comics. And that's how comic stores and so forth used to make their money. Mm-hmm. Because every couple of years, you just put the same comic up and raise the value of it and then buy it yourself. So, you become part of a group of comic stores, and you could all buy it, if you see what I mean, and then just sell it. And you sell a great amount of your old stock that way. Do you see what I mean? And each person's private collection also sells at those sort of values. So if you can imagine with a game, that's why you're getting so many Marios come up and Zeldas come up, because they're going to the same grading company, this one grading company that grades games. They're buying it, but not necessarily are they buying it with money. They grade it themselves, send it to the auction. They say it was sold at that price, but they probably sold it as 5 or 6 other games that made it up that value, and then they've got the game back in, and they'll sell it again in about 2 years' time, and that raises the buzz. That raises the buzz on the game, the sale of the game. So.
You think about it. I mean, apart from the what do you call it? The fees. I mean, if you think back the very, very early days of eBay, you weren't much fees. But what is technically to stop, apart from the fee side of things, what's technically to stop me putting the Pandora up on eBay for £20,000 and you win and bid it, but we agree, look, don't actually give me any money, and instantly somebody goes, bloody hell, that is sold for £20,000.
Well, eBay's slightly different, because you actually have to. It goes through PayPal or some other type of.
Yeah.
But with an auction house, not necessarily is any money exchanged. They could have sold it, for an exchange.
So chances are the apparent game that's sold for 1.5 million there probably wasn't even a game. The game probably didn't even exist.
Oh, I dare say they did actually do the rating and all of that sort of stuff. It actually is sealed up. That they did put it up, and it did actually go up. But I bet you there was only one bid. You don't know how many bids. You know nothing about that backstory. But what you do know is you could have had one of the people in a hedge fund buy it back.
Yeah,
you see what I mean? And then it publicly goes up into the public, spectrum to say this sold for $1.5 million. It creates such a buzz that then suddenly everybody starts trying to sell their Marios.
yeah.
And they'll be trying to send it to be graded. So that company is making money because of the grading.
It's a shame because at the end of the day, it's got nothing about games. It's just another thing. I mean, apparently they were doing it with coins, and they've probably done it with comics and gaming cards and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, it's got nothing to do with collecting. It's got nothing to do with games, and it's bloody nonsense. It really is. I mean, kind of getting back to gaming regrets. In fact, I think I mentioned that 2014. I had, in fact, it was one of my mates actually. He does join the stream sometimes. He, what do you call it? I went up to see him one day, and he had Astro Wars sitting on his floor. I went, oh bloody hell, I've not seen that for like 40 years. I said, oh, give me a shot, and he said, oh, do you want it? I went, that'd be brilliant. So I took it, and then I thought, I wonder if there's anything else. I was trying to remember the different machines that I had. I'm trying to remember the different machines that I wanted to buy. As a snotty-nosed teenager, I used to go into John Menzies, and you had all these different machines in the wall, and you go, oh, and you looked. I think the higher price ones were the ones at the higher level. And then Mum would say like, nope, you can get that one there, and it was like the wee shitty $9.99 one. But anyway, I started buying up all these machines, and now I was getting them for probably, I don't know, probably between £10 and £15. And anyway, fast forward to 2 weeks ago, and my mate, one of my mates, Richard, he sent me a message on eBay, he sent me a message on ThingMe, and he says, have you seen this? And it was Astro Wars and Kevin Keegan's Football and Scramble. And he says it was going for 50 quid. I thought, oh. So as it turns out, it was like 5 minutes away. So I messaged the guy. I said, they're still for sale. Yep. Went along, got them. Fucking hell, I've got about 12 of the buggers now. I've been going daft. Suffice to say, I wouldn't say I've spent the equivalent of buying a PlayStation 5, but I've probably spent I don't know, 200-300 quid, whatever. But you know what? I mean, I've been. If you go on eBay and you type in Galaxy Invader, you'll see it going between £200 and 30 quid. And when I first went on, I think, holy shit, I can't afford that. But what I've now done is I've got a kind of maximum 25 quid that I'll be willing to spend. And I mean, there was one person. She was selling an Entex Pac-Man, 2-player Pac-Man, and an Entex Donkey Kong or something it's called. Now, if you look at eBay, they go for collectively probably be anywhere from 50 quid upwards for one. And she'd just gone on eBay. So, evening, Neil, how are you, mate? So I just said that I'm quite cheeky. I just messaged. I message sellers directly, even if I don't have a buy it now or I know. I just offer them. I've used the. It's my brother's 50th birthday in a week's time, and I know he would absolutely kill to have one of these. So I would really need it right away. So would you accept 20 quid for that? I've used all these. People say, oh yeah, no problem. Anyway, I messaged this girl. I says, how would 30 quid for the pair of them sound plus postage? She went, yeah, that's fine. I went, dancer. So I've been kind of going a bit daft. But however, whilst I've been looking, I did post it on Twitter. I'm going to share, see if I can share I'm going to remove that for the studio, and I'm going to share a picture if I can find it.
I was going to say that after you've done that, I did find a Pandora, but I'll tell you about that.
Oh, did you? Right, just a wee second. There we go. Right, hopefully you can see this. I'll make that full screen. You'll see it in a second. Right, bring that back and share screen. Oh, wait a minute, I need to move that over there. Right, that's fine. Right, can you see that?
Yep.
Now you're probably thinking, well, what's the problem with this? This is the same buyer. This is the same buyer. This is for the box, just the box. And further down, he's also selling the bloody polystyrene inserts separately.
That's terrible. So the polystyrene inserts for the box are actually separate. Jesus.
And you're not even getting the. And the thing is, there's shitloads of. That's one I've not got yet, Galaxy Invader. There are shitloads of them going for 30 quid. And I mean that is so. I think that is if I was, I wouldn't say stupid enough, but if I had clicked on buy it now, that to me that does not scream it's for the box only. I mean, come on, for restoration. You're having a bloody lot for restoration or repair, and then he goes on. He's got about 20 pictures of the box, and it's in absolute shit condition.
Yeah, it just says LSI used box, doesn't it? That's the only thing that gives you the indication that that's just the box. But he shows you a picture of the outside of the box, giving you an indication, and it says restoration or repair. Who's going to restore the box?
And repair, you immediately think, oh, it must
repair
be damaged.
The box.
Yeah. I should actually bloody shared and shamed this guy anyway. So yeah, and somebody actually said, is that now the way things are going to go in the future? That people are going to buy something and then they're going to sell the bit, they're going to sell the pot. I mean, I'm the only thing I'm surprised that he's not actually listed left and right as separate auctions.
Yeah. That is absolutely, that is probably the worst I've seen. I've never known anybody sell the polystyrene inserts to the box separate. That's
yeah. I mean, I what do you call it? Take that down. I'll move that back over there again, so it looks like I'm looking at you. There we go. Yeah, I mean, I posted and said, that is just like out and out greed. And then somebody said to me, well, it's not greed, it's they're asking for price and somebody's willing to pay it. And that's absolutely true, but I just think, come on, seriously, we've reached a stage where people are going to. I mean, when I got half of these, I mean, I've got boxes with some of these. That when I bought them the last time, I got the box. I think the box are in shit condition. I'll just fucking fling them in the bloody bucket.
Yeah.
I just think I think it's absolutely crazy. I sincerely hope that nobody foolishly clicks on that and buys it thinking they're getting one of these things.
It's not like I haven't seen it before. I mean, I buy sort of like statues that come in shipper boxes, and the shipper boxes are from a certain company called Sideshow. Now, a lot of people might know what Sideshow is, but the shipper boxes you can actually buy separately from the actual box itself, and it does bump the value of the statue up if it comes in the original shipper box, because the shipper box has got the number of the statue, like 500 of 1,500 actually printed on the box. So if you've got the shipper box and the box plus the inserts and the statue all together, when you're selling your statue, it will be worth more money than just selling the statue, if you see my meaning. So I've seen it before, but with that's ridiculous. I can't believe that, to be quite honest. Well, I didn't believe it until you showed it me. So
yeah, well, trust me, you'd actually find, if you went onto eBay, that was yesterday that I found that they'll still be there. Mental. The funny thing is, I couldn't actually find the guy. I couldn't actually find any auction for the actual machine. Can you imagine how pissed off you would be if you bought a standalone one, and then you bought the box, and then you thought, I want it to be thing. But that's the thing about eBay, or not even just eBay, but collecting in general. If you go online and you look at something, whatever it might be, and it's selling for like £500, you might think to yourself, you know what? I think I deserve to treat myself. I've always wanted to get, a Pandora, £500, buy it now. And then you go back in, you go, wait a minute, there's a Pandora for 50 quid. Christ, there's one sold for 35. The fact that somebody charges so much can make people think that that's actually what it's worth. Yeah. Whereas basically it's just people being chancing bastards.
Exactly. Like I said, I did find one open Pandora that you can buy, and it's actually reasonably priced. 800 Australian dollars, which is £428.36.
Jesus.
One in Australia. It's a newer model because it comes with a box of a picture. Mine was a plain vanilla box, so I know it's a newer one, and it's a 1 gigahertz version, so it must be the next year's model up.
Mine's is the 600 version.
Yeah, and this is a 1 gigahertz, so you know it's a newer revision. So if anybody wants one, yay, £428.36 will get you one.
£1,000. Nah, you can stick your £1,000 up your arse. I'm keeping it. That's my retirement fund. The sad thing is, if I kick the bucket tomorrow, my daughter's going to look at this and go, "What the hell is that?" That would mean that. Oh, look, it's an old DS.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, unless you know what you're talking about, that doesn't scream an expensive
Premium
console. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't scream, "Oh my god, this is rare." Do you see what I mean? It looks just like a DS. You'd be going, "Oh, look, another piece of electronic crap that my dad bought or whatever," right? Because or whatever. But I tell you what, if you want a bit of history and you want something that's pretty versatile, that I think is worth having in anybody's collection, I'd say the Pandora was probably the one. There aren't many things that I'd buy back.
I was actually going to sell mine about maybe 4 years ago, and Lactobacillus, I can't even pronounce his name tonight. Lactobacillus Prime, Mark, who's a fellow YouTuber, he said to me, he messaged me, says, "Don't sell it." He says, "For fuck's sake, don't sell it." He says, "You'll regret it." Yeah, absolutely. And I thought, yeah. It's like anything. If you sell something for like £100, you go, "Oh, £100," and then you go to Morrison's, you get your messages, you put petrol in the car. There's your Pandora gone. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's get back to it. I want to kind of answer some questions. So, evening, Stephen. I was going to ask Stephen how he pronounces his name, but he's not going to be able to tell us. Stephen Ornig. Stephen Ernie. I think that sounds better. What do you think, Dale? Did you do French at school?
No. Well, I did, but I was useless. We did German, and I did German and Spanish. I avoided French.
What can you German can you remember?
Oh, wo wohnst du? Where do you live?
I thought that was who the fuck are you looking at?
So that was
Wie wohnst du?
It was like ich wohne in, and then wherever you live,
Well, I can ask for the directions to the guest house. Wie komme ich am besten zur Gasthaus, bitte? Du gehst geradeaus und dann links und dann rechts und dann. That's only. I can ask the way to the castle and I can give directions to the castle or the guest house.
Oh, but I remember that I thought my teacher was a bit out of order because he said, "Just don't ask me what gas stove is in German," and I didn't know what he was talking about. But that's the Holocaust. So no, you probably want to avoid asking for a gas stove in Germany.
Anyway, Stephen's saying here, questions for you. What's it? Are you retro game like me? Because I've got a game called Squirm in the C64. Squirm, was that a Mastertronic game? Something.
Squirm.
I've heard of it.
It's an arcade game. I know Squirm is an arcade game. I recognise everything else in there. Everyone's a Wally and Blagger.
Yeah, I was never a fan of Everyone's a Wally. I thought Pajama-Rama was fantastic.
Yeah, well, you actually updated a video, didn't you, with the B side of the music to that, which was done by Mike Perry, wasn't it?
Somebody asked me for it. Yeah, that's right.
The same bloke who sang the theme tune to Porridge, the film. If you've ever seen the film version of Porridge, he did the outro song.
What's he called? Mike Berry.
Mike Berry or something, I think his name.
Mike Berry. Yeah, and Blagger's a classic. It's probably one of the few games with Tony Crowther I think still stands up. And yep, Vimstar is actually on the money. Sealed games, useless. Games are meant to be played. I completely and utterly agree with that. I mean, I always think people that have collections of things, I mean, I'm sure the real hardened collectors probably don't even have them on display. They probably have them in sealed boxes, and that's not collecting. That's just trying to make money, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, we had this discussion before where I said I don't actually agree with slabbing comics. A comic is supposed to be read. If you slab it up, you can't read it anymore. The whole point of a comic book was to read it. So you're taking away what the whole point of it was in the first place. But there was one other thing that scared me that about this whole grading business is that I didn't know a couple of years ago a company was set up to grade VHS tapes. Now, the old videotape. How do you grade a videotape? You know how bad the inserts were. The tapes, they could, you could buy a bad one from the store, so you don't even know if it was good or not. Some of them were shrink wrapped inside, if I remember rightly. You opened it up and there was a shrink wrap tape in there. But who in their right mind is going to grade a VHS tape unless it's so ultra rare, like a Betamax tape, some horror film? Everything's on DVD and been redone. I mean, obviously, I do know there are exceptions. It's just that grading a videotape, it's just going to get oxidized. It's just naturally, it's just going to degrade.
I mean, there must be some things that are never really going to become. I mean, do you think, like, say for example, right now, DVDs, you literally can't give them away. I'm sure you could, if you advertise 100 DVDs for a $5, chances are nobody would be interested. Do you think we'll ever get to a stage where DVDs will become collectible?
Well, it's a big question because still DVDs are still popular because I think a lot of people buy collections in DVDs. Just to have their kids sit in front of the TV just like we used to do. You'd buy Watch with Mother or the Night Garden or whatever it is, and they'd be so cheap in there. You'd buy them and you'd sit your kids in front of it while while the mothers go and do something else, right? So, but you can see all that stuff now on thousands and thousands of satellite. So it makes me wonder how many DVD sales are there compared to Blu-ray and 4K? I don't know the answer to that because I believe DVD is still immensely popular. But the physical media question, is physical media still something to invest in or purchase? That's just personal to yourself. I personally love physical media.
Oh yeah.
But every day you're knocked for buying one, if you see what I mean, because you could just download it or stream it or whatever. In fact, behind me, I mean, everybody's, I'm sure, seen. The pile just gets higher and higher and higher.
Bloody precarious, if you ask me.
Yeah, I know. I've got to do something about. That's why I said this week I've got to do things this week that I should have done for the last 6 months. But the biggest hurdle that I've got with any physical media at the moment is there's something called rot or disc rot that some people might, if I mention that word, might be able to elaborate on. But basically, the discs can get holes. They actually degrade, and then when the laser scans the disc, it will find that hole and stop playing, or it'll stutter or skip, just like a vinyl record. So CDs were supposed to be indestructible. Do you remember Tomorrow's World when they showed you a CD and they said, "Oh look, I'm going to eat my dinner off of it"? And he ate his dinner off of it,
jam it and everything, and
then he put it inside the machine, and it still played perfectly. And he was going, "Look at that! Look, absolutely fantastic." Bollocks! We all know. We all know that weren't right. You put a little scratch on it and you can ruin that disc. Yeah. It's got a coating. When that coating degrades, you've got a problem, and that means that laser discs were the worst. There was a thing called laser disc rot, and even some of my laser discs are now perished. So what's it going to be? Yeah. What's it going to be? How long is it going to be like before the DVDs and so forth start? It's a manufacture process.
I'm supposed to kind of get back to kind of the sort of question was, would DVDs become collectible? I suppose if you rewind back to 1985, 86, tapes. Sorry, not right. 1986 when tapes were a thing. If you, 2000. If you said to somebody back in 2000, I've got a box of Spectrum tapes. Do you want them for 50 quid? Folk would just look at you and fuck off, I'm not interested in them. Nobody's wanting them. Now, people sell, they sell for like £5, £6, £7, £8, £9 now. I mean, so
Yeah.
I dare say probably because we're now used to like, I mean, you can download games and that, but you know, now people want tangible versions of them. I'm sure way down the line, getting a DVD player is going to become quite collectible, and probably the DVDs will eventually become worth something. But
yeah,
right now you can go into like CEX and you know you could spend £10 and come away with about 20 DVDs.
Yeah. Like I said, it's one of those weird things because I know only two people through my life that would now buy a VHS tape from me if I had one, and I have got a couple, I have to say, and that would be a true Doctor Who or science fiction collector or a horror collector, somebody who wants banned horror films that the video stores told you shouldn't put up on the shelf because they've been banned by the censors board, right? Which means that there was physically a copy that you could buy. There are kick hard, Doctor Who fans that will say, "Oh yeah, I want the VHS tape as well as the DVD that I've bought because I want the proper inlay and the box and the case. I remember having it." But to be quite honest, I don't know. Like you, I don't know. I should think DVDs now are on the next thing to become an extinct thing. Do you see what I mean? Because they're trying to push Blu-rays and 4K discs now so much that DVD backward compatibility to DVD is now starting to become harder, I would think, to sell. They can everybody knows you can manufacture them for about 50 pence. And still charging £5 or £6 or £9 for them is just atrocious.
Yeah.
So,
you remember back in the good old days of piracy? What was it called? Love Film. I was a premium member, and I think I could rent like 5 discs at any one time.
Oh, was that with W.H. Smith?
No, it was called. I can't remember it. It was.
I think their partner was W.H. Smith. They had
a
mail delivery company which used to.
They delivered the DVD. You ripped it and then you sent it back.
That's right.
I mean, it was like a conveyor belt. It's like I always had this big pile of bloody DVDs that you're just ripping. And see when you think back about, certainly for me, when I think back at the amount of time that I must have spent sort of like looking for like DVD rippers and codecs and bloody flashing your I can't remember how to do it, flashing your DVD drive so it was like multi-region and all this. The amount of time you spent ripping DVDs and then you would do it, you would wait forever, and then you would watch it and it'd be shit quality, and then crazy. I mean, I spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours.
That's right. DVD writers. DVD writers had what they call a count on it. So you installed the DVD player, and it wasn't region locked to anything, and it allowed you to put 5 discs in before it locked itself to the final region, which would have been PAL for us. And what you did was you flashed the firmware, and it reset the counter to nothing, and the count never even started again, and that meant that you could put any disc in. But there was a scam with that Love Film. I remember I rented some, but I never really scammed them out of anything. I just know that I ordered 3 at a time, and then I was sending 3 back within about a couple of days, and I tried to make it not obvious that I'd recorded it, because how did this guy watch 3 films in a day before sending it back, right? So you'd send them back every couple of days. But I do know that you could keep one back if it was quite rare or one that you wanted, and you could say it never got delivered because they were never sent recorded. Yeah. So basically, you could order 3, all 3 turn up. You could keep your Blade Runner or something, the one that you wanted to keep, and you'd send 2 back. And after a week, you could turn around and say, "Well, I never received this Blade Runner. When's that turning up?" They'd do a search, and they'd never be able to do it. And they'd just send you another one, and you kept the film.
Well, I fell out with them because I remember returning them, and then about a month later, they said, "Oh, we haven't got your whatever the hell it was." Sharknado, that's never turned up. Whatever.
Yeah, that's because of those people, bastards like me, that were keeping them, and they never arrived.
Vimstar saying here his biggest gaming regret: I had PS2 Rule of Rose on pre-order, but he cancelled it as I needed the money. It goes for hundreds now.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing why some games go. Apparently, I've heard it in good authority. In other words, I read it on the internet that the PlayStation 2 is the next platform that's going to start getting harder to find. So I went on to, there's a wonderful seller on eBay called Music Magpie, and they sell games for well, not for pennies as such, but yeah, they sell games for like £1. So I've been kind of buying up quite a few kind of games. I'm trying to get rid of shite, and I keep my collection keeps expanding. But anyway,
I must admit there are channels like yours that I do frequent sometimes, and I still don't know which ones are the ones that you should be targeting now. And I tried to think, well, do you know what? I'm not going to target anything. If there was a game I particularly want, I'll go and get it. I'm not a collector where I should be targeting the GameCube now, because the GameCube is going to become really difficult to find games for, or the DS games are now starting to rise in price.
Are they really?
Well, no, it's just that this is the speculation that Metal Jesus or something will turn around and say every now and again on his channel. He will turn around and say, "Oh, here's my PS3 collection. I think now that you should start buying everything PS3 because I found some of these really hard to get, and here's the gems in my collection." You'll see no end of videos like that, and I do find them interesting. But I don't know if if the Dreamcast is now a harder thing to buy now than the PS1 or a PS2. I
think so. Yeah, Dreamcast. I think the Dreamcast games have always kind of held their value, apart from the common games. GameCube have always, in fact, I was going to say most Nintendo ones. That's not technically true, but I think most Nintendo games do generally hold their value and sell for 1.5 million. But I mean, like you had the bloody what do you call it? You had the Nintendo Wii, where it was probably the Nintendo Wii and the Nintendo DS were the two machines, in my opinion, that just had so much shovelware. It was beyond belief. But they were kind of targeting your casual gamer, so people that never played games, were buying the Wii and buying the, do you remember the massive thing about the brain training and all this bollocks? That became a real big thing. I think that I don't know how.
There was somebody at work that was into those, what they call Professor Lawton games. Those adventure games. Those.
Yeah. What do you call them? Professor Layton.
Layton. That's it. Lawton, Layton.
They are excellent. I've got all of them. They are good.
But I've got a few GameCube. I've still got my GameCube, and I've got about 10 games. I never bought a lot of games for the GameCube because I had a house at the time, and I was a single person living in 300 miles from where I live now, 150 miles from where I live now. And the rent and the electricity and everything just took all my money. So if I saved up enough to buy a console, it would take me 3 months to buy one game. So there were very few games that I bought, and the ones that I bought were common. There'd be like Mario Sunshine and Zelda and all of that sort of stuff. I could never veer away from the path to see all these lovely other games. The Dreamcast was so easy to copy. I remember I came back from where I lived back home to my hometown, and then tried to find some of my old friends. And I'd go into their house, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, I've got a folder full of discs." Said, "Do you want? I'll do you a load. Go to Cash Converters now. Get a Dreamcast for about £15. Buy yourself a stack of 100 discs. Come back next month. I'll fill those for you and take it home." Right, and that's where the budget person, the person that's got no money whatsoever, got into piracy an awful lot. It weren't because I didn't want to buy them, because I couldn't afford them. And that's when people started pirating Xboxes, putting hardware in to bypass the security and so forth, because then people started finding internet ways to download games and burn them, because burners were the sole reason games were easy to copy. And the burners dropped in price because they were so easy to get. I remember the first burner was like £500 or £600. I don't think anybody even buys a burner now. I think most laptops and everything you'd be lucky to find one with a DVD player probably in it now.
I mean, I've still got
or Blu-ray player. But burners were £600, and now they're like £30 or £40. You know, and you can even get ones that etch an image on the top end of the disc and all.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've still got it. I mean, for a retro gamer, you need a burner. I mean, what have I got there? Well, my Sega Saturn it's not chipped. What is it? Chipped? I don't know. It might be chipped, but I've got a cartridge thing that allows me to play copies. I don't have any problem downloading copies for games that are systems that are defunct. What else? My PC Engine Duo, which is the CD version. I've got my Neo Geo CD thing. I've got my Dreamcast. Got my PlayStation 2. But yeah, you need a burner. You need a burner to download games for them, you know. But mental. Stephen is asking, what's this? What do you think about the costs many years ago in the 1980s? The costs, presumably you're talking about the costs of games, Stephen. I mean, I don't know. I mean, when I first got into gaming, it was before I predated budget games. Budget games weren't a thing when I first got into gaming. I mean, I got my C64 in 1983, and I don't think the first budget game came out until probably about maybe 84, 85. So all the games that I bought were like full price. I don't think they were $9.99. I mean, a lot of the early stuff like Interceptor games and that, I think they were about kind of something niggles me. They were about $7.99, something like that. And then I think it's then budget games came out, which were mostly shite in the sort of first couple of years. And then I think, like, I don't know if it was at US Gold, whatever, they brought out like a game that was $9.99. You thought, oh, bloody hell. And then that then became the norm. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, a game that costs $9.99. We'll take a good game. We'll take something like I don't know, Drop Zone on the C64. When that came out, was that worth $9.99?
Well, from my opinion, I bought it, so I must have thought that it was. But it's a little bit like you. I bought my Commodore 64 in the year that it came out, 83. Everything was expensive, just like you, $6.99, $7.99. But I told you that it took me at least 6 months to a year before I could buy the tape player. We were very, very, very poor in my family. You know, if you bought a computer, it would be Christmas or your birthday when you next got the thing for it, right? Whether it was be a joystick or whatever, right? And these things came with nothing, right? They weren't packs. The Commodore 64 did not come with a packed-in tape player, right? Back in 1983, it was separate. So in America, where disk drives were probably cheaper and the disk drive took off, over here, nobody could afford the disc player was as expensive as the machine itself. So people bought the 40 or 50 pound data set tape player. That's why we bought tapes and stuff. But to be quite honest, the games were expensive, and I did paper rounds. I mowed lawns and stuff to fuel my gaming, you know, addiction. It's my itch, yeah.
Scratch your itch.
There were people that you knew that were in your street that had, or you know, at school, and you would swap tapes, and you would try and find a way of recording it. You know, you'd find any means, any method you could, you know, so that you didn't have to pay for something. Because if you could befriend someone and they bought a game one week and you bought a game the next week, then basically you were buying probably the top end games and the bottom ones didn't mean so much. If somebody bought a bottom end one, well, fair enough. You know,
just before we go back to Stephen's question, was there any particular game? See, maybe it's just the way my mind works. I mean, I can't remember what I had for my tea yesterday, but was there any particular game that you can remember? It was a bastard to copy. The one that springs to mind for me, it was I can't remember the company, but it was called Hyperbiker for the Commodore 64, and it was a BMX game. And I can still remember. I still wake up in a cold sweat. I can remember spending days and days and days trying to record this bloody game, and eventually managed it, and it was absolutely shit. But it just became, oh, I've got to get this, I've got to get it, and it became my sole focus to get this bloody game copied. It was.
I think I was probably
bollocks.
I think I was a bit lucky because I found a kit that was in the back end of a magazine, and it was in very small print. And it allowed you to stick a wire in the back of your Commodore 64, and you'd be able to join two data sets together. And if you knew somebody else with a Commodore 64 with a data set player, you could borrow his tape player, and you'd be recording onto the same hardware that you were actually going to do. So basically, it would record the sound perfectly, is what we're trying to say here, right? So there was no sticking it in a hi-fi, and then you're taking it to a tape player that's not the hi-fi that it was recorded on. So because you've got to remember, the signal's got to be sharp.
Yeah,
right? It's what they call azimuth alignment. Don't want to go technical on you, but as soon as I found that device, I had no problems recording tapes, but I had problems with the security protection. So if there was a chart in it with 6,000 color bars in it, and it said go to A5 and type in these 4 colors, I went, stuff that, right? But if the protection was just loading it itself, I never had an issue. Never had a problem.
There you go. My game copying days was revolutionised the day I got a freeze frame, basically a cartridge you plug into your back of your computer. You load the game up, press it, and it just came up. Where do you want to save it to? Save it, give it a name, and then it would save onto disk. I mean, I bought, I bought games all the time, but I copied a lot of games as well. But it was great because you could basically make a menu, and it would have like 5 games that would turbo load. So it was fantastic. See that football? I know you're not watching it. Anyone else in the maybe comments? You get like, what's it? Screen wipe? Can you get? You see his logo. It looks like the bloody GameCube logo. I don't know what it is.
Sky Sports, I suppose.
I don't know what it is. It looks like the GameCube logo. What was that? I thought that was a free kick there.
Anyway, that there's a PS5. That there.
Oh, is that what it is?
That's a PS5. Hang on. There, that's a PS5. That's a Blu-ray player, a 4K player, and that's a Denon amp. That's a Denon.
Nice.
A Dolby Atmos sound amp.
I don't want to burst your bubble, maybe. It looks like some bastard sat in the corner of your PlayStation 5 and squashed it.
It's lying sideways. If you stood that up, it would be as high as there. Hang on, it'd be about that high.
It's a big bugger, right? Wait a wee minute. How have I managed to jump right down? Right, we need to catch up with questions. To answer Stephen's question, I mean, I always equate something to like a bag of chips or a pint of beer. If you spend, I don't know, £3, even now, if you spend £3 on a pint of beer, unless you're down in London, it's going to be more than that. It's going to last you maybe half an hour. So if you buy something and it's like £10, that's like 3 pints of beer. So if you get an hour and a half's value out of something, then I think that's fair play. It's the same with the cinema. If you go to the cinema now, well, they've actually the View Cinema in Livingston, where I stay, and also in Stirling, you can get in for £5, which is great for a film. It was up to like £12, whatever it is. So you go to the cinema, you watch a film, it's maybe £12. There's an hour and a half entertainment. So I always use that as a kind of a sort of a mark in the sand kind of thing. I think I think that was a fair price, and I really think that games have never been cheaper than they are now.
Yeah,
they really have. The fact that you can download games on your phone, you can download demos, and I mean, even we complain when a game comes out, oh, $14.99, that's ridiculous.
As you know, Alan, I'm gifting games left, right, and centre. To certain people, because it's so easy now for me to buy a pack of games. It will say tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 3's got 12 games, and out of those 12 games, I've probably bought them already 3 or 4 times, a certain amount of them, and I've got the code, so I hand them out. It's like Tic Tacs, but back in the day, I think that the hardest problem I had was that I just wasn't working. I was at school. It was at the latter. either in the middle or at the end of leaving secondary school and going to college, and so I didn't have a job, and that's why 50 pence can still be a bloody expensive thing. If you haven't got 50 pence in your pocket, 50 pence might as well be £5.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
I got a job, then all that happened is that I ramped everything up. When I had an Amiga, the games weren't hard for me to afford, but buying all of the utilities like Deluxe Paint or ray tracing programs, they were hundreds or £200 each, to do some production software. Well, then that was the next thing that I wanted to buy, because I was now starting to do things that I needed to do for work, articles or whatever. If you were trying to get into journalism, you'd need word perfect packages. So those things then became what you were buying, what you were saving your money for. And those things were £200 or £300. So games, they've always been a little bit pricey, but I've never really had a problem with their price. I've never really turned around and said, robbing bastards, unless it's a piece of shit.
Yes, someday, I can't remember, or did I just think about it? To kind of almost contradict what I've just said, if you think about it, if you bought, I don't know, I think you buy R-Type for the Commodore 64, it'll cost you $9.99 for a decent game. Technically, if you put, we'll round it up to £10. If you get £10 worth of 10p's and go to your local arcade, you could get probably, I don't know how much R-Type was in arcades. Say it was 20 pence, it wouldn't be 10 pence, that would be 50 games. You could technically have 50 games of R-Type. So if somebody says to you, oh look, Commodore 64 R-Type, or 50 games off the arcade, maybe playing the arcade would be better. It depends if you're going to go back and play a game. You know what I mean? Some games you play, you complete, or in my case, you don't complete and you never go back to them. But you know what I mean?
You got to remember
it's an interesting thing.
There's an air of flexibility in it all as well. Remember, going to an arcade to play R-Type could only be done when the actual establishment that actually had the machine is open. You actually were taking it home and loading it at any time that you wanted. Okay, it probably wasn't arcade accurate, but you could load it up whenever you want, play it whenever you want.
And there was something nice about thinking, oh, I've got the arcade in my house. I can load it up anytime you want.
The artwork and everything.
Yeah. Anyway, listen, we've got quite a few comments on that one. I don't want to ignore. Steve's asking there, speaking of buying, anyone got an Atari 800 XL for sale? I don't, Steve. I mean, I do have an Atari 800 XL. I mean, the price of hardware and just sort of retro gaming stuff in general right now seems to be really going through the roof. I think the bubble is going to burst at some point. It's bound to. I don't think it's ever going to. You're not going to be able to get. I mean, these I can never do it. That there, Vectrex. I mean, they sell for £400. I saw one. Was it £1,200 and it had like 5 games? I've got about 12 games fully boxed on all inlays. I mean, it's probably worth about £2,000 in today's money, but I wouldn't dream of selling it. And I think if anybody was to give me £2,000 for it, they need to go and get their head examined. But yeah, I don't think there's any. The days of going in and on eBay and picking up a C64 for 20 quid, I think that's passed, because they're only going to get more harder to get because they're going to start failing. So,
how many have you got, Alan?
What? How many?
Vectrex machines.
They're called Vectri. Vectrex, Vectri. I've got. I don't know if Jason's in the stream tonight, but I want to give Stephen's channel a shout out, but I can't remember what it's called. I've got 2, but I've got one coming to me. Yeah. I got that one there. Yeah, I got that one. Oh Christ, I don't know. I got it maybe about 15 years ago. They were still kind of fairly affordable, and it was a guy that was selling it local, and he had 11 games with it, and it was 100 quid. And then about four years ago, somebody was selling one in Gumtree for not a lot of money, and then about a year ago, there was one through in Falkirk, and it was 80 quid, but he said that it didn't work. I thought, and I think I had 5 games, and I thought, well, wait a minute. I mean, again, it's the Vectrex is like the bloody that arsehole selling the boxes. You can get a game, you can buy the cartridge, you can sell the cartridge. If it's got, you could sell the overlay as well. People sell them separately. So yeah, I thought to myself, the 5 games alone are worth more than 80 quid. So I bought the Vectrex on a punt, and then my good mate Jason, he's absolutely sublime at fixing stuff like that. He fixes Vectrexes, so I posted it down to Jason, and he's fixed it, and I'm just waiting for it to come back. So to answer your question, I've got 3, and you're probably thinking greedy bastards, but
no,
you know what? They're wonderful.
The actual thing, the reason that I was getting to that point is that you've mentioned many times in your streams, I'm not an electronic genius. I can't fix these things.
Yeah.
And at some point, I'm going to sell these things because the reliability is not going to be there. But I think you did the right thing because you chose the system that you have got a passion about, the Vectri or Vectrex, right? And you've got a couple of them. And the chances of the same common fault breaking on all 3 of them is not going to be there. And there'll always be some electronic person bastard out there with more qualifications than NASA that's going to be able to repair it for you. So even if one broke, you take the parts out of the other one to fix it. And that means that you've got a perpetual way of keeping your passion going for that one machine. And I think you chose the right one because it's the only one really that came with a screen that really anybody remembers from that era. If you were looking at consoles from the 1980s, computers, Commodore 64, Spectrums, Dragon 32, 64s, Oryx, the works, the Vectrex comes out as the one that came as an enclosed system.
Yeah.
And that, therefore, has become an iconic piece of kit. So you chose the right one. There's no doubt in my mind that if anybody wanted to get into retro, the Vectrex would be pretty high up in the things that I want one.
Yeah.
Commodore 64s are sought after, don't get me wrong, and they've got a passion, but the Vectrex would be over the top of a Commodore 64 if somebody wants to get into retroing, because everybody knows that it's such a hard system to get, and it's an enclosed system.
It's utterly unique. Hopefully, when I did that video a couple of weeks ago, it kind of demonstrates that it's vector graphics. There's nothing else like it, and I don't think we'll ever.
Even emulation is hard because it's drawing lines on an actual CRT. It's an actual screen.
I'll be honest. There's I don't think you can get it anymore. There's a Vectrex emulator that came out on the iPad, and I've got to say it's fantastic. You can't get it anymore. I mean, it's no longer available. But I remember I'm sure I did a video when I ran the Vectrex and I had that side by side. And if you imagine the iPad is probably about the same size as the Vectrex screen, and it really pulls it off. It looks amazing, but it's never going to replace the proper hardware.
We better get some questions, haven't we?
Yeah,
I'm taking a lot of your time talking crap.
We've not even attempted to look at the questions. We'll probably have to part them till next week. Yeah, Ox is saying they're just like the bastards that rape, split C64s and sell boards, chips and case separately. Yeah, I think that's always going to be a thing, and it's just part and parcel of the hobby that we live in now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, like I say, the 64 is one of those ones like the Atari that's got custom chips. You can buy a Spectrum pretty much off the shelf these days. The RAM chips, everything.
Yeah,
it's just the custom chips.
There's Stephen saying I want an Atari 800, but they're £700. Yeah, again, that was always my my holy grail, the original. I call it I think I'm the only person that does. I call it the tank edition because it's fucking built like a tank. It weighs a ton. You lift up the lid and it's got all this cast iron. It was the first home computer.
Mine's in my cupboard and I still haven't took it out.
You've got yours as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the very very first Atari 800 I've got.
Yeah,
and it's got a metal bloody chassis where the cartridges go.
I realise stupidly now. As soon as I bought it, I got a what do you call it, a SCART cable for it, and I thought, right, I don't need the RF cable. I just snipped it off, So it's probably, I dare say, you could probably weld one back on again, but cut it off because it's just like it's got this bloody big tail. I don't need it, but yeah, I've probably just taken 300 quid off the price of it if I was to ever sell it again. Because people, even though you've nobody in their right mind would ever want to tune it. I don't know if anyone you watched a video that I did a video with my mate Neil, he was in the stream earlier on, and it was a Binatone TV game. You know, the orange. Well, as Billy Connolly says, you get orange and you get orange. It's like fucking orange. It's like orange times 10. It's like glowing Chernobyl orange. And we did a video attempting to tune this into a TV, and it was freaking hell. But I wouldn't say it. I thought it was hilarious, and we got absolutely nowhere. Trying to tune anything into an RF thing now is hopeless. So yeah, I don't think anyone would want to have the RF. You know what I could probably just buy an RF cable on eBay. I could open it up, tie a knot in it so it's not even connected, and then just go, oh, look, there it's there, and nobody would ever know because nobody's ever going to use it for an RF. But yeah, the Atari 800 was a holy grail for me for a long time. They were selling at that point, they were going for 200 quid, whatever. And again, I actually sometimes think that things like eBay, you're not going to get a bargain in eBay anymore. Things like Gumtree, because that's where you might get some old woman, some old granny who's about to get moved into an old age pensioner's home. They think, right, we need to clear our house out. They go up in the loft. They go, what the fuck is this? What the hell's that? A computer? Oh, stick it in Gumtree. They're not going to go on eBay. They're going to stick it in Gumtree. So I bought it was actually really nice. It was a guy. He was selling his dad's 800, and it was an 800 plus a disk drive. So I contacted him on it, and he says, my dad sadly passed away. He says it's got he used to program it, and it's got all his notes, programming notes and all that. I goes, oh, that sounds brilliant. So anyway, I bought it, and I bought it, and when it arrived, there was he'd chucked an Atari 400. He chucked, I think there's like 2 disk drives. There was a couple of cassettes. There was cassette deck things. There was loads of games. There was discs. There's all the different paraphernalia, instruction booklets. And one of my favourite bits, because it's history, was this guy's is like jotters, and he had all these programming notes and all that. And I just think it's a wonderful part of history. And I went back to the guy and says, listen, thank you. I got all that for, was it 80 quid? And I says, look, thanks very, very much for giving me this stuff. I says, I can absolutely promise that I will look after it. I says, I'm passionate about gaming. I says, and I'll really enjoy it. I says, it's nice to think that your dad's stuff has gone to a good home. But yeah, it's wonderful. Really, really nice. Ox is saying here, he's after a Commodore 128 and he'd swap his Amiga 500 Plus, or now I get slated because I can always pronounce it. I always thought it was a T1.
Yeah, TI.
It's a TI, and then somebody went Texas Instruments.
Instruments, yeah.
Yeah, I did own a Commodore 128 for about a couple of hours because I bought it on Gumtree about 6 months ago, and it was temperamental, but it wouldn't. I couldn't use the. Was that? Did that had a cartridge, didn't it? But for some reason, my Ultimate 2 cartridge wasn't compatible with it.
Yeah, I had a cartridge port.
And I thought,
I'll tell you what we'll do for Ox. You can do this later on, Alan. You can set up a Discord channel called Swap Shop. And everybody can put, I want to swap this for this.
You know what? That's actually, I don't know if Ox is on Discord. That's actually not a bad. I know we do have a sell your shit.
Sell your shit, yeah.
That's not bad actually. That's not bad.
We'll call it Posh Paws or something, being that Swap Shop backwards.
You can be Cheggers.
Yeah,
I'll be Noel Edmond if that's all right. Noel Edmonds. Yeah, that's what we'll do. Right. Crosslink. Good evening, Squire. 8-bit Steve, I bought 2 800 XLs recently in great shape for about £50 each. Wow. I upgraded them with Ultimate 1 meg and sent one to Nice.
Wow.
Well, that is a damn good price. Well, I've got my Atari 130 XL over there. Which that's my workhorse.
Yeah, because that would be mostly starting bids for Atari 800.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, as a starting bid with a reserve there.
That's a bloody.
That's you never get to it.
Damn good price. There's Ox speaking. Wie komme ich am besten zur Burg, bitte?
That's
du
fantastic.
Gerade aus und dann links und dann rechts. Das ist fantastico. Yeah. Here we go. Stephen's telling us. Chris, we must be behind in the comments. Howernig. Yes. Stephen Howernig. There we go. Excellent. Thanks, Stephen. Crosslink is saying, so you can still get a decent deal in eBay if you're patient. Facebook. Yeah, again, I think the bargains are to be had on Facebook and Gumtree, but you still get these greedy bastards. You know, some of the games that I've bought down there, paid 30 quid for it. I'm just going to give you a sneak preview of one, because I plan to. I've got about another 6 coming, and I'm going to. Although I did do videos of them back in the day, I'm going to do more videos. But I'm going to let you see this one back in the tank. This one here, I always remember going into Woolworths and playing it, and I always wanted it, and I could never afford it, and it was this.
Oh, Mattel Electronics. I can't read what it.
Battlestar
Galactica.
It's brilliant. I didn't realise how small it is actually. Like, Jesus.
There used to be I think there was a random. You pressed a button and it randomly shifted the lights. It was sort of like in those games. Mattel did a Spider-Man and a Hulk one, and it was like $6.99, and I swear it was some sort of like football or thing. You pressed the button and all the lights would shimmy, and then only a couple of them would light up. I had got no idea what the rules were. I still don't know what you're supposed to do in that game. I remember that, but those Mattel Electronics, they did so many TV and license stuff, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
it was a Battlestar Galactica. I can't remember what other ones.
If I remember rightly,
I think it was a Buck Rogers one.
It's slightly. I mean, I don't even see that. You think, oh, look at the spaceships, but I'm sure it's just little lines. It's literally just lines. But I mean, that was your bloody Switch back in the day.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I like the wee top tip. If game malfunctions, try a fresh battery. There you go. By the way, I was going through. I've got a big box of batteries, and I had a lot of the C batteries. You know, the middle, not the huge ones, the smaller ones. I was going through that a couple of weeks ago, and I noticed that I had about 20, but they were expired. They expired. I didn't realise that batteries have expiry dates in them. Yeah. And all these expired in 2016. So I put them into a box because I'm eco-friendly. I put them into a box. I was going to take them up to Morrison's probably tomorrow to dispose of them. And my mate Neil, he was down last night, and I bought myself one of these. What the hell do you call it? A voltmeter, so you touch it and it goes. Yeah, I don't know how to use it. Anyway, I was showing him that, and he said, "Have you got a multimeter?
A multimeter.
A multimeter. Yeah. That's it." He said, "You got any batteries we can try it on?" I said, "Oh, I've got some of these old batteries." So he went, He goes, that's 1.5, nothing wrong with that battery. 1.5, nothing wrong with that. He tested all 20 batteries. He says, "There's absolutely bugger all wrong with them." So they were like 5 years out of date. But yeah, there you go. They still.
I used to remember the Duracells used to have those 2 little points that you press together.
Oh, what is it? That never really lasted, did it? Fancy bat. They probably bloody charged extra money for them.
Yeah.
Right. Stephen's asking, did you play Head Over Heels and Whizball? Did you play either of them at all?
Yep. Whizball, we both played that, haven't we?
Yeah.
Head Over Heels was wasn't that released by US Gold? Am I thinking the right game?
No, Ocean.
Head Over Heels, that isometric game. Yeah, I didn't like that. I did play it.
That was John Rittman who did the.
I was thinking of Flip and Flop. I don't know why, but I was thinking of Flip and Flop. But Head Over Heels, was the isometric game, wasn't it? And,
yeah.
Even I didn't even get on with that. What was that one called? Fairlight, was it? I never got on with those isometrics.
The problem being a C64, they ran as slow as dog shit.
Yeah, that was it. And I had a 64, you see, so.
But I wasn't a fan of Head Over Heels, Stephen, but I absolutely love Wizzball. I was actually playing Wizzball. That was one of the few games that I will load up and just play. It's such a bloody awesome game. It really is. Let's have another wee squint. Ox is saying their CDs were originally made from bulletproof plastic, but companies have made them cheaper, which defeated. Is that true, do you think?
I'm not quite sure if it was bulletproof plastic, but I do know that the coating was patented, and there's an actual thin layer within the plastic that is the bit that you read. It's what they call pits. There are pits inside there. The laser picks up the pits, and that's the digital element. I have no idea what the plastic was, but if it was bulletproof, well, no wonder they were expensive back in the day. But I was told that CDs were expensive when they first came out because the record industry wanted to recoup their losses for the oil shortage on vinyl records. They lost so much money because there was an oil shortage in the 70s, and they just inflated the price to recoup their money. They said, which is a complete lie. But I believe that of the record industry, it's any excuse to make things expensive. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So not only were you buying a piece of kit, a CD player that cost like £500 or whatever it was back in the day, the bloody CDs were 15 quid. And you were buying the same album again. You know what I mean? It was that same adage. Oh, how many times have you bought the White Album by the Beatles? Well, I've bought it on tape. I've bought it on vinyl. I've bought it on CD. I've bought it on SCD. I've bought it on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever medium
comes out. Talking of which, can you get the original? Oh, that's probably a stupid question. Can you get the original trilogy Star Wars on Blu-ray now? Yeah. No, really.
Not the original. It's always the LucasArts. So here's this week's version of the effects that I've put into it. In fact, by the end of this stream, he's done another version. That's what usually most people say about Star Wars.
Good evening, Phil. Mr. Smith. I don't know when he joined the stream. Oh, there. God, I'm looking at a comment from 9:01. It's now bloody 9:42. Yup, you've been rumbled. Neil has rumbled you, Del Boy VJ 70s porn.
Do you know what? I'd like to turn around and say I could name a 70s porn star, but I can't. Let me think.
What I'm trying to think. What was her? What was the one that was? She was something like she was only like 15 years old or something. What was it? Tracy Lords. She was.
God, yes.
She became kind of mainstream, didn't she?
No, she did. She got the whole porn industry into an uproar, didn't she? Because she never published her age, and she was actually in no end of films, and every single one of her films was banned and taken off. And apparently in the States, it just basically everybody in the States just could have got fined millions and millions and millions and millions of pounds. But then she turned up in a mainstream film, and then she was in a Roger Corman film called Not of This Earth. And then I can't remember what else, but she's basically dropped off the planet virtually, from what I know.
Suffice to say, she's been in quite a few things. Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Oaks is saying, I remember when the first writable CD-ROMs came out for the PC. Yeah, I remember that. I remember a mate of a mate was going to do me a copy of, was it Final Fantasy 5 for the PC? I don't know why. I didn't even play it, but I remember. I think he was going to charge me like 15 quid or something for it because he had to buy two CDs.
It's amazing what the internet has done for us, because I found out that when you put your disc into the player, it actually checks to see what type of branded disc that you've got. There are literally only 3 companies that make discs in the world.
Is that right?
So you could be buying the most expensive CD, 80 or DVD 4.5 gig disc that's from TDK, but it came from the same place that made them. It's just the cheaper 100 spindle ones generally are the knockoffs, the ones that they thought that failed a certain test on accuracy. So you buy 100, and probably most of those have got the branded TD discs inside that spindle, but you'll probably find 5 don't work. So that's when you get write errors or CRC redundancy checks errors. But they all come from about 3 different places in the whole of the world.
Ian Hunter's saying here, I still have over 200 VHS tapes. I don't have the heart to get rid of them. I saw an interesting thing. Well, I thought it was interesting. On the BBC News a couple of weeks ago, some guy in England, he's apparently got I think he's got, I don't know if it's Guinness World Records, but he's got the biggest collection of, this is a proud boast, he's got the biggest collection of VHS tapes. And he had 15,000. And apparently somebody in Dundee were selling their dad's collection, which was 30 or 40,000 tapes. And it was like 500 quid or something. And this guy went up, he hired a van. I think it was maybe 2 vans to get his mate, and they went up and they bought like he basically I think he had 15,000 and he bought 30,000. It says so his collections went from 15 to 45,000 tapes. But what he's actually doing is he wants to open up an old style VHS shop. But who's got the means to even play the damn things? But there was something really, really nice. It's like kind of almost like into the original arcades. You can always remember going into the wee kind of seedy, video shops, and it was always dark, and the carpet was always sticky, and you'd be looking at all these films, Rollerball and Quadrophenia, and then you'd look up, and obviously they had the porn tapes, and then you also had Jaws for sale. It was like £200.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as much as that seems ridiculous, I do know that there were third-party video stores other than Blockbusters, and they had to buy from the same distributors that Blockbusters would buy, and you only got the cheaper price if you bought in bulk. So if Back to the Future was the latest film that came out, then their tapes did work out to be about £80 or £90 that you had to buy them for, because they'd only buy 3 or 4 of them to rent out. And that's why all of the little video stores asked you to sign their insurance policy, because if the tape got caught in your machine, you had to fork out for the price of getting it replaced, if you remember rightly. And Blockbusters tried to force you to do that. But Blockbusters were robbing bastards, because how many Blockbusters were there around? So if one tape got damaged, they probably bought them at a £5, where the smaller independent video store, they could only buy 5 of them. They were 80 quid each.
Can you remember as a teenager returning a tape thinking, shit, I haven't fucking rewound the tape, and you would like walk out, oh shit, have you rewound it? That is mental. Can you, well, saying to a kid, you mean rewind a tape? What the hell are you talking about? But to actually think you were going to get into trouble because you didn't rewind the tape.
Well, in the States, people bought players to actually just rewind the tape, didn't they? They couldn't hit the rewind button on their own video recorder. They actually bought a machine to rewind it for them. I thought, well, that's a bit exuberant. But I do remember that a most sought after tape was a time code. Do you remember what a time code was?
It's where tape. No.
Yeah, so if a film was coming out, they had to entice the shop to buy the tape and buy lots of them. So they'd send a time-coded copy of Back to the Future to the shop for them to play, watch, and then put their order in next week for it.
Oh,
and it had a clock at the bottom.
Yeah.
And it kept coming up. This is the property of Warner Brothers, and if you've well, the owner of the shop usually gave those to the staff. And there's a market apparently for those time-coded copies of stuff.
Wouldn't surprise me.
You know what I mean? But that's the only thing I think is worth any money, is probably time-coded copies. Oh, Wordsworth. Oh, that was a program on the Amiga. Oh yeah, it says Amiga there.
Yep, I had that as well. Excuse me. Let's just have another wee what's Steve saying? Taking the piss out of me, no doubt. If I can learn to play like a guitar at my age,
Alan could learn to repair consoles.
Well, Actually, I bought a soldering iron set off Amazon just before lockdown, and my mate Neil was going to teach me some basics, because he says at the end of the day, if you can, you know, doing recapping and whatever it is, that's going to really help your kind of consoles. But that is something I probably need to learn to do. Especially when you buy some of these kind of electronic machines, you'll buy them not working. And I mean, I opened up one the other day there, and there's literally fuck all in it, a couple of wires.
Yeah, it was interesting. I saw a video, didn't I? And I told you about it, Alan, about a repair on one of those binocular type electric.
Oh, yeah.
And his had got corroded because sweat from the hands had dripped down through the buttons onto the tracer lines. So there was no battery corrosion. It was just that all the board was basically knackered based on moisture from your fingers. So those are great to try and practice on with your soldering iron. I would say definitely get yourself set up with a £5 piece of crap and take it to bits and have a little look. I would definitely say that was
play about with it. Yeah,
you'll learn about flux and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Good evening, Mr. Garside. How are you, mate? I'm only 20 minutes late saying good evening. That's the problem. If you look at the scroll bar, I think you can see the comments as well. Yeah, you can. The scroll bar looks like there's only maybe 3 comments, but when you pull it down, it goes whoop.
Yeah.
Good evening, Chronosoft. Evening all. A bit late to the party. Yeah, we've been going for bloody an hour and 49, and we've not even started the questions. We'll probably have to leave them till next year.
That's a shame because I haven't asked a question in 3 months, and I put 2 in this week because I've been.
I noticed that. I
did. That was so funny when I was going. Oh, I've got a question.
There you go. Dave Garside saying there he had a grifter looking for a rally chopper.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, even the grifter was a thing. I was at I was shooting my girlfriend's a couple of weeks ago, and we went into B&M, and as we came out, there was a wee kid. He must have been about 10-year-old, and he was sat on a bloody rally chopper.
Oh,
and
right. Yeah.
I'm like, wow. And the wee guy says, "Oh, that is bloody awesome, mate." And he went, "Oh, thanks very much."
I always knew people that had grifters and choppers, and I must admit I had a rally bomber, BOMBER. I remember that.
Oh, I had the metallic red grifter, thingy beauty, absolute thingy beauty. There you go. 018118055.
Yeah, swap shop's number. And if you want to know, Tiswas was Birmingham B12JP. If they want to know their postcode.
I do remember. What was it? Bob Monk who used to go. What was it? What was that postcode again?
B12JP. That was
Bob Monk used to
Birmingham. Yeah.
He used to go B12JP. I can't remember. It was some kind of quiz show. Yep, there you go. That was Swap Shop. I've got a used paper clip I want to swap for TCR.
TCR.
What time was it?
What was it? Yeah, what was it? Was it Tiswas? Was This Is Saturday Watch and Smile? Was that what it was? What it was the abbreviation for?
What was that? Oh, really? I don't know.
Tiswas. This Is Saturday Watch and Smile.
Is it?
I think that's what it was.
It's probably one of these things that was just made up. But I don't know. Maybe it was. Who knows?
What is the? Yeah, it's a 45 minutes. Ox. Oh.
What's that,
Dave? What time is the phone for Kajagoogoo? They're on in 45 minutes, Dave. So after this break.
Chronosoft is saying, I found an Amiga 2000 hard drive at an outdoor auction about 2 years ago for 20 quid. Works okay. What's that? All right. So I thought he was saying I thought an Amiga, it was just a hard drive. Oh, so he actually found the bloody Amiga 2000. Wow.
Yeah. The battery leakage is an interesting one because the 2000 did have a battery that leaked, just like the early days of anything that had a battery in it. So, you'll recognize that NES cartridges now are starting to become very difficult because they had battery for save states. The Amigas of that era had obviously battery type backup that usually was in the RAM expansion.
Yeah.
So the 2000 was prone to have leakage. if you didn't change, if you don't mod it up now, it'll damage the board. So he was very lucky with that.
As long as my stuff holds out for the next 20 years, it'll see me out. So I don't give a shit what happens to after I'm gone. Mad moments go. Don't hear much about the Atari Falcon. Yeah, the Falcon. What was that? The Falcon 030. What was that? A particular type of Falcon? No.
Isn't that the Atari ST Falcon?
Yeah, well, Atari Falcon was the sort of the successor to the
Super ST, wasn't it?
I think it was supposed to be. That was bloody bizarre. Did you see at the very top of the screen there? You know what it's? Can you see the number of viewers that are on the stream?
No, it says 19, I think, on my side.
Well, it says at the top live, it's got a clock, and then it's got 19. 19. And just for a second there was an icon appeared between the clock and the thing, and it had like the wee Wi-Fi.
Oh yeah.
Why the hell did that appear?
That might be your side.
Well, I'm hardwired to the router.
No, but that might be a symbol for broadcast.
Weird. I don't
know, but I haven't got anything like that on my side.
Nah, weird. Just noticed it. But yeah, the Atari Falcon. I mean that was a successor. I think it was supposed to be able to compete with the Amiga, but I don't know what the specs were. The Atari Falcons go for daft money. That's not something I've got. I mean, I've got a 1040 down in the floor there, but yeah. They do go for a lot of money. Let's have another quick wee squint. What's Colin saying here? Imagine going back in time to see your younger 12-year-old self and showing them a Raspberry Pi. Yeah, I know, that's insane, isn't it?
Well, you'd look at it as... I was bewildered when they turned around and said, there's a cassette that's got 50 games on it. I was going, yeah, you bought it? What a bag of shit.
I remember when I remember when what do you call them, Codemasters, they brought out all their games and they put it onto a CD. I was like, holy god, 20 games in one thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm like a bloody broken record. The fact that, I mean, you can get what's the maximum micro SD card you can get now? Can you not get like 500 gig or something now? Are they up to that yet?
Not quite sure, because I must admit I'm still in the ballpark figure of buying 512 gig sized cards. I don't go to the 1 terabyte size and the 2 terabyte size of SD cards. So I'm not quite sure what the capacity is now.
I'm sure you can get. I'm positive you can buy like at least a terabyte card now.
Oh yeah.
You imagine how many Amiga discs could you fit into 1 terabyte?
Oh yeah.
What would that be? 50,000 or something?
Amiga discs.
More than that. No, more than that.
They were high capacity, so they were 1.72 meg. So
1 meg is 1 meg is 1,000. No, wait a minute.
1024K to a meg.
Yeah, 1 gig is, for easy terms, is 1,000 meg.
24
so
meg.
1 gig would get you 1,000.
Yeah.
1,000 discs. So that's 1 gig. A terabyte is 1,000 gig. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would get 1,000.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
1,000. Is that a million? Yeah. A million.
Yeah.
That's I1 with 6 zeros. So something the size of my fingernail could hold 1 million discs.
Yeah.
Imagine that. That would fill up your bloody room.
Yeah. This is what we were saying with that. If anybody's got an A600, the cheapest way to buy a hard drive for it is not to buy a hard drive, is to buy one of the PCMCI cards and put an SD card in it. You got yourself a hard drive, and it'll be a bloody big one as well. So
just absolutely insane. Yeah, I mean, that's to think, you could never. I don't think if everything that we've got, if somebody told me back in 1985 there's going to exist thing on a computer where you're going to be able to type in and look for information and all that. I mean, I had what do you call it? CompuNet. So I think you would understand. You would, you think, yeah, I get that. But when you were standing in Blackpool in an arcade, and somebody says to you, "Do you know that in 40 years' time, you're going to be able to all the games that you can see in here, plus every single Commodore 64 game, plus every single Spectrum game, plus every single Mega Drive and SNES and Master System and PC Engine, every single game that you could ever imagine exists, you're going to be able to play it in a little thing like that."
Yeah.
You would just go, fuck off, don't talk so much pish. And here we are.
But the one thing that I'm very disappointed with all the major companies, and that includes Nintendo, Sony, anybody that you want, the game industry is a billion pound or dollar industry, and they do not put enough money into archiving their software. There is no program that says we're archiving every game we've ever made and we're putting it into a repository and it's going to be stored safely. Because there was an interesting question that somebody raised earlier on that I didn't get time to answer, which was Craig. He was just basically saying that Dell, buying physical media is the best way to go, because with streaming, you're only as good as the license. Netflix can take away a film a breath and you've still got the disc, and that's quite right. So at any point, Nintendo can put their products out on the market, but where they're finding these days that there are stuff on the market that they haven't backed up, because they're going, oh yeah, there's another Zelda that we didn't know that we sold off to the hotels back in the 80s, and it was a specially coded version. That proves they haven't got a program that stores all of their games, and that will be the same for every company out there, I should think, out there. And
that's an interesting point, because I mean, I would imagine that like movies and TV programs are largely. I mean, in fact, TV programs, do like the BBC and all these companies, do they retain programs?
They do now.
Right back, but they didn't now. They didn't back in the day.
They put them onto film and they wipe the films. That's that's how half the Doctor Who collection out there has got missing so many episodes, because they've, in the 70s, they junked the black and white stuff because they thought, who's going to watch things in black and white anymore? And are we going to replay? Are we going to replay this on the TV when we have to actually pay royalties to those actors for rebroadcasting it because it's a repeat? So they wiped them.
Yeah. But I mean, in the main now, I think I would imagine that all these companies, films and that, they're all going to be historically backed up. But as you say, that kind of thing doesn't exist in video games. And, well, it does, but it's getting done technically illegally. You've got guys from MAME who are, I mean, MAME's a stunning example of our, hobbyist archiving stuff. I mean, there's games there that it amazes me that how they've managed to gather, 20,000 odd games. Games that will never. There's probably a lot of these games. There's not a single working one in existence. How the hell they've managed to get a ROM from wherever, I don't know. But and yet we're constantly getting criticised. And if a company was to, not a company, if a website was to dare host, I don't know, some FIFA 2006 for the Mega Drive, they would instantly be taken down, which is fucking nonsense, because it's companies and websites like that, these illegal websites, that are keeping the whole thing there for and then even like, and I've said that before, we're sitting talking about stuff like this, the stuff that we're doing right now, in 50, I don't know whether this is going to exist in 50, 60 years' time, when you or I are long gone to the great arcade in the sky. What we're talking about is party history as well. We're talking about video games. So, welcome to 2050, guys. I'm dead, but anyway.
I'm here from the grave.
But it's a fair point. What's Phil saying here? Let's have a look. Meister, did you ever rent games? You could get Master System, Mega Drive, and NES games at my local off license for £2 a night. Right, World Soccer. The only system that I had where I did rent a game, I had not a Mega Drive. I had a SNES. I had my what do you call it? I had my Commodore Amiga, and then I did buy a SNES. And I think what did I hire? I think I hired. What the hell was it called? NBA Jam. There was a special edition, but yeah, I didn't really. In the main, I generally didn't. I tell a lie. I do tell a lie. Blockbuster used to hire out PlayStation 1 games, and my girlfriend at the time, she had a wee boy, and he would be about 6 years old, and I remember going into Blockbuster with him, and I says, right, we'll get these games, right, shh. And he went, Alan, I was getting served. He went, Alan, are we going to be able to copy these? He said it as loud as anything.
Yeah, there was a bloke down the road who had one of those copying machines for a SNES. You know, you put it on
Sorry,
top.
this was the PlayStation games that I was hiring, and then I would go home, rip them, and then I don't think there was any. There wasn't any protection in PlayStation games.
They were black discs that were supposed to be uncopyable, but you could. But I was just mentioning the SNES because the SNES has an interesting way of copying them because nobody thought that you could dump them onto floppy disks, and I know that the guy down the road bought something from Japan. And he put this on top of his SNES, and you had to put a proper cartridge in at the top to make it work. And you fed a floppy disk out of it, and basically the menu would come up, and you could dump the contents. He used to go and rent SNES games and dump all the games onto the floppy disks.
I remember, I think the guy was at it. I remember when I used to go to the market to buy copied games for the Amiga. The guy that ran the stall said that somebody had come up with some way of running SNES games on the Amiga, and I remember seeing he was selling floppy disks, and I think he was trying to palm it off, saying these 4 discs are actually the SNES version, and I foolishly believed him. But what I got was just the bloody the crappy Amiga version.
Yeah.
Ox is saying here, what do you think of old electronic brand names being bought and used to sell cheaper equipment?
Yeah, okay. So if I'm reading this correctly, this is a little bit like going back to the 80s and 90s when Sony would make a TV, and if you were to buy a Sony TV these days, it would have an LG panel inside it, but the electronics inside it would be Sony, which is why it makes it still a Sony TV. But actually, the panel is an LG, which means that you've got a lower. How can you say that this is a true Sony product when it's mixed with parts that other companies make? Do you see what I mean? So Blaupunkt is probably a subcategory of Pioneer.
I remember years ago, my mum and dad had a TV, and I think it was like Philips, and I remember peeling the Philips off, and underneath was Grundig.
Yeah,
it's like it stuck a thing across it.
So what we're trying to say here is that if you look inside your Apple phone, it's probably 40% Samsung.
Really, is that right? Yeah.
You know, because basically that's where their semiconductor chips come from.
Interesting. Blaupunkt, what is that?
I think that's a brand. I'm not quite sure what they sell, but I do know. I think that's what he was getting. What he's getting around is that people are bringing out alternative versions of stuff like you can buy those Atari consoles that are branded as having 30 Atari games on them that connect to the TV, and it's not really Atari, is it? But
so I thought Ox had just made an arsey spelling Blackpool, and the spell checker wasn't working.
I mean, I'm not sure what Blaupunkt is, but I've heard the name.
Let's have another wee quick look. There's plenty of swaps going on there. Let's try to see. They're all talking about swapping.
You started some off now, or was it me? Because I said we'll put that in Discord.
Yeah, Ox is saying he bought a 0.5 terabyte micro SD card for his Pi 400. Yeah, that's
like I said,
insane.
I've got a 512 meg. Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about, Dale?
512 gig, should I say?
Is that what you're talking about? The A600 is a 2.0. See, that
Yes.
that means not a jot to me. That's like,
Yeah, pretty much. But it's actually a PCMCIA card. Is what I was talking about. The A600's got a port on the left-hand side where you can put camera card adapters in and then put a little SD card in. You can turn it into a hard drive. The A500, you have to buy a kit, and you were asking that question in one of your streams, and Colin answered it for you. Said you want to buy this product where the disk drive goes. Take the disk drive, the floppy disk out,
right,
put
okay.
this little SD card reader in.
Yeah. There's cross-sync. Apple use Foxconn.
Apple use Foxconn.
There you go. I'm not going to argue with that. I wouldn't know. Never even heard of Foxconn.
No, I haven't.
I don't know. Evening, Mr. Connolly. Mr. Connolly's in the stream. A fellow Scot. He is quite literally like. I mean, Dave, you might be able to explain exactly what you do, but he is he's programming this thing, which doesn't mean a lot to me, but it's a very, very clever thing that he's programming. But Dave, I listen to his videos. I don't understand a bloody word what he's talking about, but he's massively entertaining. He's very kind of Billy Connolly. He's amusing. So yeah, go and check his channel out. Evening, Kevin. How are you? How are you, buddy? Hi, folks. Spectrum Next having trouble with some TVs. Don't. No, right, really.
I heard early versions were like that, and apparently it was after you had to do a firmware upgrade, and it was something to do with HDMI. I can't remember. I think
what I've found with I'll be honest. My next, I wouldn't say it's been a waste of money, because a waste of money would say that you bought something and then you don't use it and it's now worthless. I know I could sell it probably and I could probably make more than I paid for it.
I thought the next people had got round it by turning around and saying, although it's in the instructions, it's in very small type. If you turn it on and press a key while being turned on, it will put it back into a default mode where your TV will pick it up.
Something like that. There is a way of doing it. I've had a few problems in the past connecting it, and it doesn't see the signal, but I've really not used it often enough, But anyway, listen, guys, I think we should draw this to a close. That's 2 hours and 10, a bit more than I was going to do. So listen, thanks to Dale for dropping in. You had the usual 5 minutes. What are you busy, mate? Yeah.
I could talk for hours. I didn't realise 2 hours 10 has gone by. I'm so sorry, guys, and I probably waffled on about crap when you had some good questions to ask. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Listen, thanks for the questions. Thanks for the questions. I will carry them forward to next week. So that's excellent. I will be back along on Sunday. What am I doing? I'm going to do a live Dreamcast stream thing, but I'm going to be using. I could use CoinOps Next, but where's the fun in that?
Can you play Samba de Amigo? Can I put my question in? Can I put my answer in right now? You got to play Samba de Amigo. I want the bongos out.
Yeah, so I'm going to have my phone connected. I'll be sitting there playing it on that. Give that a go. So. And listen, guys, thank you very much for watching. Have an absolutely fantastic weekend. Stay safe. And I said I'll be along on Sunday, usual time, 7 o'clock until 9. Till next time, guys, take care and thanks for watching.
Thanks very much.